Welcome to the Sharpe Club. It's a little bit past 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and you're saying to yourself, 9 p.m., Larry, it's late. I know, but this is Monday. That's how it works, guys. And some of you are saying, Larry, I missed you. You haven't been on for like a week. That would be correct. I was at Freedom Fest, as I warned you all last week. I spent the entire week in Memphis, Tennessee, hanging out with a bunch of cool people at Freedom Fest. I actually met RFK Jr. Yes, he was actually there too. Shook his hand, all kind of cool stuff like that. Larry Elder was there, some people there too. So left and right, nice big mix of people at Freedom Fest. So why was I there? Because I'm super cool? No, actually because it was fun. That's the reality. It was fun. I enjoyed it tremendously. It was good meeting all the people and seeing all the cool things that were going on there. It was a sad part though. Memphis was a little bit down. It was kind of dead. There were hardly any people there. I was very disappointed. I wanted to be more bubbly and such, and it was not. Maybe they knew I was coming. I don't know, but that was an issue. Today, I am done yapping about my Freedom Fest. I am now talking about what I think is a very important issue. It's an issue of mental health. How do we talk about it? When do we talk about it? And when should we prioritize it? And when shouldn't we? When is it a crutch and virtue signaling? And when is it real? When do we really need to deal with these issues? And it goes back and forth and sadly, sometimes even partisan. And I have this evening an amazing panel. Very happy to bring a bunch of people here. First, I want to bring on someone who is a non-influencer. That's right, he's a non-influencer. My friend, the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Harlow. How are you, sir?
Hey, darling. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm glad to have you here. Not just that, though. I got even more. I have our returning champion, the man himself, the dragon of the Southern Tier, political commentator, Michael Vass. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Happy to be part of this wonderful crowd.
Excellent. And of course, I also have someone who, how do I describe her? I think I describe her as maybe a content creator and also a wellness advocate. I'll try that. I'll see if that's good. She'll get mad at me if I got it wrong. The one, the only, if I say it right, Dara Sweatt. Did I say it right?
Yes, you said it right. You said it right.
I am killing it tonight. Look,
great
at
introduction.
Me go. So let me bring up, I think, an important question. And I think I'll bring it up more when it comes to something maybe more seriously that I think every city is dealing with. And I saw it in Memphis. It's the idea of homelessness. With homelessness being out there and people seeing people homeless all the time, so often I think everybody thinks, oh, it's a bunch of crazy people who are going to be out there killing you. And that is the image, I think, of so many homeless people, because those are very often, though that segment of the homeless population is often the segment that does commit violence. That's often true. So I think we think of it like that. Should we be prioritizing mental health? Should they even be a thing? Where do you guys go on that? You're nodding your head, Michael. What do you think?
Yeah, mental health is a huge factor for a swath of things. I mean, we're talking about it's one of the leading factors that's causing overdose deaths, suicides. It's affecting kids in terms of in social interactions in the schools, only exacerbated because of what we saw during the pandemic, which has made that and everything else so much worse. So it's a really big, and we're not even talking about veterans and many of the people who are homeless. This affects a huge amount of America in so many different ways. And sadly, the only thing we're getting from politicians, left and right, is lip service. They're pandering to us. This is a heartstring pull for them to get reelected, to get donations, as they do nothing, and they use it to leverage their political agenda.
Well, the lockdowns surely made everything worse, right? I mean, no matter how bad it was, the lockdowns clearly made everything worse. Mike, am I right here?
Yeah. Sorry.
Mike Harlow.
That's right. You'll call me Rob.
For sure. I mean, I think that it has affected things in ways that we haven't even begun to comprehend yet. I mean, you already had children who were being raised by iPads, just being put to sit in front of an iPad, being drugged up on God knows what pharmaceuticals for any symptom, any sign of acting like a normal child. And now you lock them inside for a couple years, covered their faces in fabric muzzles, acted like that is normal, acted like there's something nefarious and to be fearful of with just basic human connection. We haven't even begun to comprehend the ramifications that that's going to have for a generation.
Wow. Now, Dara, you're a self-proclaimed wellness advocate. Help me here. Is this medical part? I mean, wellness does include obviously mental also. So where is your head here?
Yeah, well, to Mike's point of, not being able to comprehend what's going to happen in the future from the impact that these kids have had. I mean, you have to think about these kids in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Those are imperative times for their social skills to be interacting with other kids in class and playing on the playground, learning with a teacher, and for them to be, I mean, I live in Florida, so our lockdown, thankfully really was kind of a blip, and then we were back to normal within a year. But there are some states that
me and Vass lived in New York. Was the opposite.
Oh yeah,
very much.
So the world was watching Florida, going, "Wait, what are you guys doing? We're supposed to be in this lockdown." And so for me, I have a different perspective on it, especially when it because we didn't really get locked down for very long. But other states are just now starting to alleviate some of those lockdowns, alleviate some of the not being able to go out to restaurants or having to wear the mask. So those kids that had basically a year of not having that social interaction, that's definitely going to affect them later on in their mental state for being able to communicate properly, to have a conversation. Again, to Mike's point, they were already infatuated with iPads. Parents were, my kid won't settle down. Here's my phone. Play your game while mommy talks to her friend, or play your game while we're at dinner. So I think it's just aiding to that. And I feel like once things are starting to open up again, then we have a chance to save that. But there's definitely going to be some slower incline to those kids being able to be socially interactive.
It's funny you say that because Mike Harlow and I live in New York City. And that was like the harshest of the harsh. If you remember when at 7 p.m., we'd get outside and clap for our jailers. You remember that, right? Oh, our jailers are so good and awesome. Thank you.
Well, that's really another flip side to this too, is it's not just the mental health ramifications, but the significance of children seeing their parents bowing to the government, seeing their parents acting as though it's normal for the government to tell you when you can leave your house, what you have to put in your body, and that being normalized at such a young age. It's going to take generations to undo the damage.
Voss, you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah. To put this into perspective for people, because it's not just the kids in kindergarten. We saw a spike, and we've already seen high numbers of kids between 15 and 24 who are leading the number of suicides in America, and also overdoses. But we've seen a significant, about a 20% increase in the 15 to 24-year-olds. So we're talking about, this is real time happening to our society right now. Within 3 years, the youngest in that group will be part of the voting generation, which means that's going to affect all of our policies going forward. And where are our politicians focused on right now? They're not addressing anything everyone has mentioned right now. They're saying, we need red flag laws because that's mental health, and that's going to help everyone, and everyone will be safe and saved. Well, guess what? They said that in 2021, and in 2023, it doesn't work. It never has.
Well, you know what? I see what you're saying, and I am concerned because you're right. No one's even, I guess the part that bothers me here is no one's even saying, hey, my bad. Like there's no one saying, you know what, we screwed that up. We were wrong, right? To your point, Mike, they saw our parents do it, and there's no one going, really, they shouldn't have. Don't listen. We made a mistake. Sorry, it was a bad. No one, just like, that never happened. Never happened. Whatever. Look over there. Look over there. No one's even accepting. And if we're going to be the right, I guess this is maybe to Dara's point, if we're going to be the good example as a parent, shouldn't we at least go, we were wrong?
Well, no, we should say, don't double down. Think of what Biden just put out, the Bipartisan Communities Act, which was his answer to mental health. And one, that's a horrible bill. and it failed in every aspect, especially when we talk about mental health, which he's running around right now saying, I'm such a great guy because this is working so fantastic. And it's not working empirically. And by the way, Sam, no, we're not saying kids should have medication.
Let me pop this up real
it.
fast. Let me do this, Mike. Sam, Sam, thank you so much for the super chat 499. Former special ed teacher, that's Sam. Some kids benefit from medications. Yes, absolutely. It is dangerous to stigmatize treatment using medications. I think that's true, right? We do want to make sure that the kids who need the drugs and medications get them, but we don't just go, that's the answer. And I think we see that specifically to your point, Vass, with the veteran community. We have made it to where that's the answer. The answer is the drug, not let's see what the answer is, and maybe it's a drug. No. The answer is the drug.
And Mike was saying it himself, that it's, we're over medicating these kids. Everything is ADHD or ADD.
Everything is.
And we're just pumping kids. The answer is have a drug, have a drug, have a drug. Mike was dead on when he said that.
Well, and also stigmatize. It's every channel on TV promoting this. It's every government promoting it. Like 4 people sitting around having a discussion to discuss maybe the flip side of that, I don't think is stigmatizing when you have everybody, the entire medical establishment, everybody promoting this. And rates of antidepressants, rates of serious drugs have vastly increased. And what I find interesting is if antidepressants are so helpful for fighting depression, why is it that as rates of usage of antidepressants have risen, so has rates of depression? It has not gone down. We are taking well-adjusted. We are taking well-adjusted people who are maybe going through a rough time and turning them into crazy people.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just wanted to jump in on this point too. So I was never diagnosed with depression or on any antidepressant medication. But when I was in college, I went to a psychiatrist and said, hey, I'm having a really hard time focusing. And I asked specifically, are there some, behavioral activities that I can do that will help train my brain to focus so that I can, be more focused in class and that I can do, I was in college full time and working on the side as well. Is there something that I can do, activities that I can, in the morning and at night that would help me focus? And he was like, no, pretty much your answer is Adderall. And I tried the Adderall. I didn't like it. And then he was like, okay, well, now we do Vyvanse. And from being on the Vyvanse for so long, the thing about Vyvanse is it does spike your serotonin. So you have to take it every single day. Otherwise, it will slip you into depression. So I was like wondering why I called it my gray season. I was like, I don't know why everything around me seems gray. Like colors I don't see blues or reds or whatever, I'm seeing gray. And it was, from my own research and looking into wellness on my own that I realized it's because of that spike of serotonin that's happening while you're taking the Vyvanse. And if you are not taking it every single day consistently, it drains you and it makes you depressed. So then thankfully I didn't go to get antidepressants, but had I stayed on that medication, I would have been on one medication that helped me with my ADD and my focus, but then also led me towards needing to be on antidepressant because that medication was making me depressed.
I've seen that now. There's now you have to take the second medication to support the first medication because the first depression medication makes you want to kill yourself. So you have to get the second one so you don't want to kill yourself on the antidepressant medication. Wow.
Every drug we make has a side effect. Every drug ever made by human beings. And the answer nowadays is, well, take more medication. Here's a solution. Here's the thing. We're social creatures. We need to interact. We're like bees. We're like ants. We need to be around other people. And if you look at iPads, you look at the over-medication in our schools, and then you add in the politics, the politicization of it, where you have agendas that are running rampant saying, oh, no, but you can't be around those people. I'll put in my thought. It's like critical race theory, which is saying that there are segments of people by the color of their skin alone are inherently evil and everyone else is a victim. Therefore, you need to be separated from those people. We have a guy in the White House right now who's running around saying, if you disagree, if you add a question, You're evil. You're part of the bad people, and you should be ostracized. When you put that into the mix with everything else that we've just mentioned, how are we not surprised that we have seen an increase of some 20%, well over 20,000 people who are now either overdosing on drugs and or committing suicide, which there was 48,000 suicides in 2021 alone. Majority of those are men, but women are on a spike as well.
Yes. Women have moved away from drugs compared to men and have tripled down on alcohol. Women alcoholics, massive. I mean, over the pandemic, women became alcoholics. And I mean that's like a statement I can say it's real. As American women, they became alcoholics. This used to be alcoholism used to really be a male thing. Not anymore. That's a female thing. And the men have gone to harder drugs. The men are the ones dying of fentanyl, and the women are the ones getting liver transplants at 26 years old. That's what's happening now.
Well, look at what was happening on TikTok in the beginning of the pandemic. It was everybody was, let's drink during the workday. I've got nothing else to do. Let's drink. Let's open this bottle of wine, that bottle of wine, drink this, drink that, whatever. So it was trendy to be drinking. And then when you consistently are in that habit, you kind of get stuck there. And then that's what leads you to the alcoholism. You
just hit it, was the habit. That's the thing. 2 weeks to do something is a blip. 2 years is habit forming, right? I mean, now we're different, right? I mean, I was talking about Memphis the other day. When I was there last week, it seemed dead. I'm like, Memphis, the home of the blues, right? The home of the jazz and the cool stuff. How can that be dead? And everyone told me the same thing. Yeah, it's not the same since the lockdowns. They all say that. In New York City, Mike, you know this. It's different. This city used to never sleep. It sleeps now.
It's so depressing. People who see what it is now think it was always this way. So I kind of try to keep the memory alive of what New York used to be. It used to be, I mean, I would just walk around the city for like 4 or 5 hours and come home and 10 different crazy things happened. And that just really doesn't exist anymore.
Absolutely. 100%. It is definitely an issue. So let me, if I could, head over to kind of what you talked about, Mike. I'm going to go to your next piece, which is you talked about the idea of red flag laws.
Yeah.
Which I want to cover 2 parts to that. One is, since no one's actually talking about solving the problem, they just make more laws. So in the case of homelessness, they're like, well, we're going to put more people in hotels or whatever. They just spend more money, make more laws, but don't deal with the issue. I feel like gun violence is a similar issue. They just go, well, it's mental health, but they don't do anything about this thing if it is mental health. What they do is pass more laws. Let's make, and this happened in New York State, I'm not joking, let's make illegal guns illegaler. That's what New York State did. I'm not making that up. Let's make illegal guns illegaler. That'll solve it. Vass, am I right?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we see them, the only times we hear about mental health in any serious way from Congress or any of our political leaders or politically elected officials is that whenever they need an election and when they have any kind of gun violence. It's the only time you hear mental health. I mean, and when you hear it outside of that, say with like Dan Perry in the New York City subway, where he was confronting a man who was known for and arrested multiple times for felony assaults. He had a mental issue for well over a decade, well documented, both in video and in arrests. And we heard for a second, the answer was, no, you just have to accept that he's mentally ill and some mentally ill people are violent, and anything other than that makes you the bad guy. Now, I'm not saying Dan Perry's perfect, but that's not the right answer.
No, I agree. Dan Penny, by the way, just to be clear, Dan Penny. But my point here is, if we actually cared about mental health, he would have never been in that position in the first place, right? If we actually cared about it, he wouldn't have been there in the first place. Now, I'm going to give myself a little toot here because I talked about this last year. I talked about the idea of once we had our lockdowns and everyone, all the mentally ill guys are rushing over into the subway, I said, let's make, if you remember my caring caboose idea. every other train, the last subway car is an actual place where people of mental illness can go to. It is there with counselors who are there and private security, no cops, because people who are mentally ill do not like cops. Homeless people do not like cops. So private security, and it's sponsored by all these damn drug companies who are the ones getting everybody hooked anyway. So they got a marketing budget. Stop putting it on TV and instead support the people that you're making, right? You support it, do that, and now there's a place for them to go to. We didn't do that. No one took my idea. No one cared. It's, by the way, still on my website. If any officials listening, just take the idea. I'll say it's yours if you want to. I won't even say it's mine. Just take the idea. But that was an actual idea to fix something. And what I didn't get was any other idea. I got nothing. I think you're completely right. Mike Harlow, you see this in the subways, don't you?
Oh, it's insane. I mean, I just try to avoid them at this point. But I think we really kind of need to decouple actual real mental health from what's being called mental health now, because the mental health industry is the biggest scam taking place in existence, and it is the cause of more problems than we can fathom. There's a thing called the pharmaceutical sales industry. There are incentives for them to continue prescribing things and lying to people about the nature of these things to get as many people hooked on these drugs as possible. And when we look at, because for me, I know what Democrats are going to do. I know what the left is going to do. It is what it is. I've personally, as a person who's kind of considered to be somewhat on the right, I blame the right for more so for all of the stuff with the lockups, because nobody did a damn thing. Every single one of them complied. They allowed it to happen. They just bent over for it. I would go to demonstrations here against the mandates and stuff, and maybe the biggest one they'd have, maybe it would be 1,000 people at the most. Nobody would do anything against it. If every person who was against it said no and went on strike and wouldn't show up to work, it would have been done with in a weekend.
No, you're right.
So tired of doing nothing.
Hold on. I want to be clear on this one. Mike Vass, he was at a lot of these events during the lockdowns. He was there, right? So across New York State. I showed up to a couple of them. Him and I were at a couple together outside of, was it Binghamton was one of them, right?
Yep.
Out there, Binghamton.
Yeah.
So we did a couple of those. But to your point, Mike Harlow, there were very few politicians who showed up. Most of them were activists. Very few. There was some.
I just mean the average person.
Hardly any.
Well, I can say from my experience, I covered 4 or 5 different events throughout the southern tier of New York. Each one of those events got somewhere between 300 and 500 people to show up. And I'd say about 10% of those people were doctors and nurses. Every single one of those doctors and nurses were fired. And here's the thing. They got fired because they disagreed with what was happening in healthcare. And that was the example made for the rest of the state and the rest of the country. Oh, if you speak up, if you disagree with the powers that be, you will be punished and ostracized. Now, since then, we've seen them go to court, and they're winning every single court case saying, no, that was absolutely unconstitutional. Right. But the impact is we are being taught by media, which is backing up these politicians in saying, obey. Don't question this. Just take the blue pill and just shut up and keep your head down and don't worry about it. And I think that's a big long-term problem. And we see that mostly while, Republicans definitely failed. We're seeing this growing by leaps and bounds from the left.
But I'll go one step further. I think as a libertarian, I think the Libertarian Party did not do a good job either. We did not step up to be the leaders that I wanted us to be. Some of us did. I mean, I was out there, but I got shadow banned immediately. The second I opened my mouth, I got shadow banned on everything I did, right? So I got shadow banned horribly. But there were some leaders who weren't shadow banned, and they didn't step up. They were either quiet or, worse, to your point, some actually acquiesced. There were libertarians who were like, no, I'm scared. Lock everything down. And that was heartbreaking to me.
I'm just talking about the average person too. I think that they get away with doing all of this. The reason that it continues to be successful for them is just the compliance of the average person. If every single person who was against it took that stand, I think it would be done with a lot sooner.
Yes, but to the point, I think, Vass was talking more about upstate New York, and there was much more of a fervor upstate. New York City, we were compliant sheep. we were happy as can be being compliant. I can probably look outside my door probably, I don't know, once a week or so, and I'll still see a young, fit woman running with a mask on.
Every
I'll
day.
still see it. Like, she's young, she's fit. I'm sure she's got the jab and every booster there is. I'm sure she got all of them, and she's still got a mask on. And she's outside, and she's running by herself, mask on. So I still see that. So down here, they were super compliant. Guys, let me do a little bit of admin if I could. If you're listening or watching right now, do me a favor, click that like button. That like button matters. I have to get past Al Gore. Yes, the algorithm. I have to get past the algorithm. It's important that I get past them. So let me get past those algorithms, and please click that like button. It really does matter. If you happen to be watching this on Twitter, then retweet this right now. I know we are a good-looking bunch. That's true, but we'll still be here after you hit retweet. So please hit retweet. It does matter. If you are on Larry Sharpe YouTube, you also can, if you want to support the show, super chat. It gets your chat right to the front and supports the show. If you say, Larry, I don't want to chat, but I love you and I want to give you money, you can. You can go to patreon.com/Sharpeway. Throw me $10 a month so I can spend more time doing this and less time running around Freedom Fest and more time here. Absolutely. If you are super crazy and you want to help my attempt next year to get on the ballot, to get a third party on the ballot in New York State, then head over to LarrySharpe.com/ballot access and give whatever you can give for that specific thing. But no matter what you do, there are 3 people here who are showing you some love. Show them some love. Follow them on Twitter, or you can check out what they're doing. If you look at the description in both YouTube and Facebook, you can see all the things they're doing. Please follow them. Give them support. You can follow Mr. Mike Vass at MV Consult. You can follow Mike Harlow at not Mike Harlow. And you can follow Dara at Dara Sweatt with 2 T's there on Twitter. So I wanted to bring that up real fast so that everybody was clear. Let me grab a couple comments if I could. There's so many of them popping up all over the place. Let's see here. I grab a couple of these if I can. Let's see here. So Patty says, certainly missed you, but got some stuff done. Housework. I appreciate that. I'm glad you were still able to stay busy without me. I do appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. So let me grab here we go. Legacies Access. Homeless is the goal of government policies for us all. So I do want to bring that piece up. Is failure actually the goal? And maybe that's are people using mental health just as a trigger, just as a virtue signal, just to get people fighting, right? It's not really, it's just to get you fighting. It's not to solve anything. Is there some truth to this?
Maybe not so much about wanting you to fail, but wanting you to rely and wanting you to not be able, to be in a position where you can support yourself. So you have to, have your hands out and, please more porridge, type of environment that they want to create for us to not be successful.
See, but I call that a fail. I call that a fail because you're failing to be an individual. You're a category. You're no longer you. Right. You're just whatever category they've assigned to you, and you have to obey, and you can't step out of the bounds. And they have an equity system that's been set up where they're going to arbitrarily, on any given day, randomly reassign your value in that category system. That is dehumanizing, and it is built on you must be supported by the government. You can't do it on your own. I mean, it's so much, and this is part of the reason why we all feel so depressed, especially since 2020, is that we have this oppression on us saying, you're not human, you're not an individual, you have no choice, and only the government is smart enough and capable enough to run your life.
I'm going to go even deeper than this. I think I'm going to go deeper, Mike. I'm going to go even deeper than this. And that is, I think the government is also assigning your value, meaning you have no inherent value. You don't get to decide what your value is. Your value is what is assigned to you, not what you can build, not what you can project, not what you can do, but your value was assigned to you. So, Mr. Vass, you are what we say you are. And that's what you are. What you do, what you say, how you build, doesn't matter. You're what we say. And I feel that lack of control, lack of power, lack of freedom, I feel like that helps want us to all go on drugs.
Yeah. And that's why they legalize marijuana. That's why they're pumping kids full of ADD and ADHD. And that's why they're excusing every single adult. I mean, when we were in the chat before the show started, Larry, you brought up something that I don't think any of our guests, anyone here on the panel with me had ever heard of before. Time blindness. It's a new category. It's a new equity thing. And this is, when you said that to me, I was just amazed by the stupidity of this and also the dependence that it creates, because it's a new category of mental health.
So let me bring this up since you brought it up. I'm sorry. If you want to bring up my point, you can't do that. I'll add this all into the mix. The time blindness piece. Some of you who are watching or listening may remember it. It was a TikTok. And it was a young woman who says, I'm upset because I got yelled at because I was going to an interview and I was asking if they have some other way of dealing with people who have time blindness, meaning people who have trouble being on time. That is now called time. I never heard of it either. It's now called time blindness. And then she said, my friend who was with me decided to change the subject because I guess he was embarrassed. And then afterwards yelled at her and said, what's wrong with you? You can't, this is a job interview. What are you doing? You can't say you have time blindness. What's wrong with you? He yells at her and she gets mad and she says, no, that's insane. No, they have to accommodate me. And then, and then I guess he says like, well, no, you're entitled. And she goes, entitlement, that's not entitlement. There are other options that can help me out. If you think you can just yell at me, you're entitled. That's the actual TikTok. So now once you guys put your tongues back in your mouths and close your mouths, you can now respond if you would please. Go ahead.
She's lucky it wasn't us there that she was talking to. She would have been a sobbing puddle on the floor. That poor girl. Well, first of all, I didn't realize I have time blindness since I'm always late. But it's actually just because I'm a vain bitch who spends too long getting ready. And
there we go.
A similar reason for her.
You know what? If they only had some type of portable clock that maybe you can carry with you, like that might go on your wrist or something. If they would just invent that, then maybe, or some type of time device that you might be able to hold with you in some way. If they would only invent that, then that would have like an alarm on it or something like that. They would just invent that. Maybe we can get around this time blindness thing, but yeah.
Why when you can just keep inventing new identities for yourself?
That's true.
I mean, that really is the crux of it. We have turned identity-based victimhood into the highest social status imaginable. So people, especially white liberals who are bored and have nothing better to do and want that acceptance and that validation, will keep creating new identities for themselves.
Well, see, you just hit something, Mike, and so did there was a comment from Joel who just mentioned, and watch, this is going to happen. You know how there's and I know, Larry, you've heard this before. There's Black people time, and anyone who's Black has heard of this. It's Black people's time.
Yes.
And now you're going to hear someone is going to listen to this conversation. Someone who I would probably never agree with is going to come up and go, well, see, not only is it a mental disease, this is a mental disease that's racial. And so you're double evil. We're double evil right now to dare say that this is somewhat less than the most pressing issue for America at this moment. Not an answer to mental health.
If you penalize me because I'm late, now you're racist.
Yeah. You're going to hear someone do that.
It's gay time too, but again, that's just because we're vain little bitches.
I mean, every category can now have a new subcategory of
So if you're Black and gay, don't even show up. Don't even bother showing up because you're good. Don't even show up. You just get paid. That's not how it works. You just get paid. You just collect your check on Fridays. That's it.
Dara, you are like speechless right now.
It's funny that because I have a lot of friends that are Hispanic, different ethnicities, within Hispanic, Latin America, Cuban, Puerto Rican. And I hear that all the time. Like, oh, I'm on my way, but you know how it is, Puerto Rican time. I mean, and it's like 4th of July. We had plans to hang out with our Columbia friends, and the time was 11. And I was like, well, I know that we're not going anywhere till noon. And it's exactly what happened. So it's just, I'm just like, well, no, you don't, it's not Puerto Rican time. It's not any time. You're just rude. You're not paying attention to what the time is.
Yeah, but
Yes.
these are all excuses. These are all new ways to take advantage of a very serious issue. I mean, we're having fun with this at the moment, and we should. And if someone doesn't like that, I don't care about your feelings. But
I care about your feelings if you're listening. I do. See,
I didn't say anyone else doesn't, but
I don't either.
I care.
I have my own feelings. My point about that is
I have none. I'm dead
feelings.
inside.
I don't need to import someone else's feelings. So, but I can share what I feel about this. And it's not I don't think if I have to worry about a veteran suffering from PTSD on the side of a street, if I'm worried about a child who has lost the ability to socially interact because they've been locked away from people for a couple of years, if I'm looking at people who are so depressed in their life that they're going out and either committing suicide against themselves or violent acts against others, guess what? Where's our priorities right now?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree. And some of you may have heard there's another meme. This is a meme from years ago. My daughter actually showed me this meme probably two years ago. And she's
Your daughter is awesome, by the way. I love
Thank you.
her.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So she actually showed me. It said, hey, what condition can I have that's not so bad that allows me to use slurs? So like that's what they're looking for. Can I call myself something that isn't that bad so I can use slurs? Like, is that a thing? So how can I get my slur card? Right? What do I got to do? Right? So, but again, while that's a joke, that's not a joke.
No, and they keep inventing new identities. If you look on TikTok, a big thing with these nut jobs is they're pretending to have dissociative identity disorder, and they'll have like a whole network. They call them their alts. They'll have a whole network of their alternate personalities, and they have their own names and their own genders, and it's like hundreds or thousands of people doing this. They're insane.
Didn't we used to call that just bot spamming?
I thought it was called bot spamming too, but clearly it's not.
I thought it was called One Flew Over the Friggin' Cuckoo's Nest.
No, but
those people were actually nuts.
Yes, and that was my point. I don't think the problem that I have with all of this, what you're talking about now, is that there are people who are really ill, who are now going to be ignored or dissed or joked about or whatever, and they are really ill. Like they are suffering, versus someone who's like, man, I really want attention. Let me make some shit up so I can get some attention because my normal thing that I'm doing doesn't give me any satisfaction. So I'll make something up so I can feel like I'm special. And now someone who's really ill is somehow going to be ignored or be hurt or harmed. I mean, this is a real problem. And this goes kind of back to what Sam was saying. At one point, do we go too far to where now people who are really in trouble get ignored, right? I see it happening with the LGBTQ community where so many people I know now identify as queer and nothing's changed. Like they still like the same people they've always liked. They still attracted the same people I've been attracted to. They still dressed exactly the same way. Like nothing's changed. Go, oh, today, I'm queer. That's it. And it's like, that's how they can be part of the community or something. And nothing has changed.
Queer means nothing. It means you're sick in the head.
No, it's a new it's higher on the ranking of categories. Lesbians are thrown out and we've had on the panel several lesbians who have said, they just got thrown under a bus. Yep. So gay men, you're thrown under the bus. Why? Because there's a new ranking. And Dara, Mike, I have to tell you guys, I'm sorry, you both rank lower than me, not because I say so, but because that's what's coming out in the media. Somehow I'm elevated. We're all human beings. And again, this is all part of dehumanizing ourselves. And sadly, I think this lack of attention, unless it's politically expedient, is really hurting those with serious and true mental health issues that you don't see them. No one talks
Right.
about them and no one cares about them for more than 3 days after a shooting. That's it.
Right. Absolutely. Scott says perfectly, me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. That's yeah. He's not wrong. Absolutely. So
Well, and the guise of mental health is being used to get all of this crap into the schools with SEL programs, with pharmaceuticals, with gender for children. They're using mental health to get all of these things in. And it really is
Diversity.
just like COVID and the lockups before it. It is nothing but a way to remake society in their image.
Chris says, hold on, let me grab Chris.
Go ahead.
He says, mental illness awareness is a huge concern. That's true.
Mhm.
But too often, politicians and lobbyists use it as a talking point to raise money for the next term. This is the part that keeps bothering me. I feel like, and Dara, I think you're going to really, I think this is where you are. We're not actually trying to solve the problem when it comes to mental health. We're just trying to remove the symptom temporarily, but we're not getting to the root at all. And this is government in general, but in this case, because this is what Chris Rock said years ago. He said there's no money in the cure, right? There's money in treatment. There's no money in the cure. He said if they could cure, it's what he said, and it happened. He said this years ago. He said if they could cure AIDS, they wouldn't do it. They would just make sure they had a pill you could take every day. And he jokes, he goes, oh yeah, my AIDS acting up. Like he does a joke like that, right? He's like, oh yeah, today's bad, my AIDS acting up, right? But that was years ago. And now he's right. There's literally just a pill every day. They don't, I mean, I have no idea if they can cure AIDS. I have no idea. But I do know there's a lot of money in just keeping a pill every day.
Oh, and they try to push you into taking that shit like you would not believe.
Yes. Yeah. And PrEP.
That's what I'm talking about. They don't want to hear the word no with that.
Yeah. It's very much like take this pill, take that pill, instead of actionable steps to be able to heal your body from the inside and then out, with not just, I mean, your mental health is more than just your mental health. It's your physical health, your spiritual health, the relational health that you have with your family, with your friends. It's so much more than just popping a pill. It's those actionable steps to change your behavior. That is what we need to be promoting, but that's not what people promote. It's, you know, take this, you know, may cause this, and you hear all these commercials, this person's sad, and then with this pill that they're happy, but then there's 30 seconds of sped up after effects that could happen from you taking that medication. And it's like you got to take another pill after you take a pill, and nothing actually gets solved.
While they're talking about the thing is like they're kayaking or mountain climbing, right? And then all the side effects, but they're mountain climbing. I want a mountain climb. Do I get a kayak if I take this? I get to go on a kayak. I like that. Let's do that. I'm with you.
And they try to push you on all these things like you wouldn't believe. It's like you're under interrogation trying to tell any doctor, I'm not going to take drugs. I had to go get a physical, just a routine thing at the doctor. 15 minutes they were trying to convince me to take PrEP. And I had to just stay firm and no, and be like, I'm sorry. I assure you, I am not getting laid nearly enough to have any use for an anti-AIDS pill. I promise you.
Well, maybe
and even if I were,
that's good. Maybe they thought you were. It's a positive thing.
Even then, still it's a no.
Yeah, I was. This is, you know, I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was 15 years old, and I was on birth control and metformin for 12 years. And I would say the one good thing about the pandemic is for someone like me, it really opened my eyes to maybe I don't need to be taking this medication. And through, you know, I've had a nutrition coach and I do CrossFit. So our beliefs on wellness are a little bit different, you know, when it comes to that stuff. And I slowly but surely got myself off of both of my medications. And when thank you. So this month is actually 2 years that I've been pharmaceutical free. And thank you. Amazing. When I went to tell my doctor about it, I like armored up like I was getting ready to go to battle to like tell him I'm not taking this anymore. And luckily I was blessed to have a doctor that was like, okay, cool. Like as long as your levels are good and we take some blood work and things are good, I'm not going to make you take something that you don't need. So I was very fortunate in that aspect, but I found it very interesting how in the last 2 years that I have not been on any pharmaceuticals, I have been the healthiest that I have ever been. And I've, you know, my body composition has been the best that it's ever been from the natural actionable steps that I take in my daily life to have a better life, physical and mental.
Yeah, but then you know what? You're sitting there and you don't care at all about the pharmaceutical companies at all. See how selfish you are? They got to make money. They're going to buy their third house. What's wrong with you? God, you don't think of anybody but yourself, selfish woman. It's you.
Well, I mean, my health comes first, and I'm gonna do what I have to do. And I might have a
Yes.
cabinet full of supplements, but they're all natural. So I'd rather approach
Yes.
things a natural way, and instead of just taking one pill that's supposed to fix everything, but then
I
you end
love
up
that you
having to
brought
take
that up
4 or 5
because
different ones.
when I turned 50, immediately, yes, I know you're saying, Larry, 50? No way.
I was
You're
thinking
like
that.
25. You're like 25. No, I turned 50 several years ago, but that's okay. When I turned 50, people were like, the doctors were like, so let's get you on a statin. I was like, why? Well, you're getting older, cholesterol.
What is that?
That's a cholesterol drug. Let's get you on a statin. Right? I'm like, what? There's lots of them out there, right? So I was like, no. And then they're like, yeah, you're going to have cholesterol issues, you're getting older. It was like preventative. What? Yes. And here's the worst part. I only go to the doctor when I run for office because I have to have my medical records in case I run for office. So I go every 4 years. So otherwise I don't go to a doctor. So last year I ran, so I went to the doctor. And I tell the story often. People who watch the show will know the story I'm going to tell already. I go to the front desk and fill out my form. And the woman at the front receptionist says, you got to put down your prescriptions. I said, I don't have any. She went, okay. Then the nurse who takes me now to the doctor, she says, oh, you got to fill out your prescriptions. I said, I don't have any. Oh, okay. Doctor comes in and she says, oh, you got to fill out your prescriptions. I don't have any. Like all 3 of them assumed that I have prescriptions. And then the doctor, she was upset. She was like, can we get you some prescriptions? I was like, no, if I wanted some, I would ask for some. Right. So, yes. So I guess I'm just reinforcing your point. Yes, it is all about get you on the pill, get you on the pill, get you on the pill, get you on the pill. And I know it drives everybody nuts.
Yeah, the whole thing with PCOS too is like having to have a healthy lifestyle and like eat less, exercise more, and being 15 years old, already very influenced by Vogue, and this was like 2008. So
hold on, Dara, if you could. Some people don't understand what PCOS is for a female.
Yes,
I know because I have daughters. So I'm aware, but some other people don't know what PCOS is. Could you let people know?
Sure. So it is called polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it's very different in every single woman. Men can also get it. It's not just for.
Oh, I didn't know men could get it.
Yes, it's different forms.
Okay.
The research that they've been doing lately has been saying that it's more autoimmune than anything else. But when I was diagnosed, it was a family member of diabetes. So for me, it affected my pancreas and my ovaries, and they tried to tell me, that I would probably have a hard time having kids, and la 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 la. And the only way to, prevent this is by taking, birth control and the metformin to help with your weight loss, and all this other stuff. And the thing with that is no doctor told me how to eat healthy or what having a balanced diet was.
Right.
They were just eat healthy. And I'm like, well, obviously we know eating healthy, fruits, vegetables, good proteins, good fats, all that other stuff. But what exactly does that mean? How does one eat healthy outside of, just broccoli and chicken and rice that you would see the bodybuilders eat all the time? So there was no education, and it wasn't until 4 years ago when I started doing CrossFit and getting nutrition coaching by one of the coaches that I really got to understand how to eat and heal your body from the inside out using food.
Absolutely. It's medicine.
What's so great in this conversation? I hope people are catching on to this more and more as they're listening to us, and share this with everyone so that they can hear this too. The more you treat yourself like an individual, the more that you self-respect yourself and you take accountability for yourself, whether you have an issue or not. But by being accountable to yourself first, not the government, not someone who was elected, not some political organization with an agenda, you're going to live a happier, better life. Even if you do actually need a medication or a surgical procedure, whatever it may be, you're going to be better off.
Right.
Overwhelmingly, for the average person, you're going to be better off as an individual who's self-accountable, as opposed to you're a sheep that's just obeying and hoping no one ever looks at you directly and ostracizes you because they noticed you. I think that's the biggest problem we have with mental health right now in America.
So you just brought it up. So I want to do it. Let me do a little bit of admin since you brought it up. Again, help me out. Get past Mr. Rhythm, algorithm. I'd like to get past him if I could, please. Click that like button, no matter what you're doing. If you don't like this and you're mad because you don't like one of us and you hate watching it, well, I'll bring them back on. You keep hate watching, click the like button. I'll do it anyway. So no matter what, click the like button. It does matter. I bug you because it matters. Please do so. If you are watching on Twitter, retweet this right now. Just hit quick retweet real fast so people can see it. It does matter. Michael Vass is correct. This does matter that people see it. And of course, if you are on YouTube watching Larry Sharpe YouTube, you can super chat if you want to. You can support the show on Patreon if you like. Also, patreon.com/sharpeway. You can support the show that way. But no matter what you decide to do or not to do, one thing you need to do, which is only fair, there are 3 people here who are giving you some love. So show them some love in return. See what they are doing. All the descriptions are on YouTube and or Facebook, or just follow them on Twitter. You can follow Michael Vass at MB Consult. You can follow Mike Harlow at not Mike Harlow. You can also follow Dara at Dara Sweatt, and that's Sweat with 2 T's. You can do that over on Twitter. So let me grab a couple of comments if I could more. I got so many of them. So Patty says, no, you need 12 meds to counteract 1. She's kind of right on that one. So yes. So Zach goes on and says, perhaps we need to legalize it's psilocybin. Is that right? I think he means that's the mushrooms. And yes, he is correct. You should absolutely do that. Yes. So yeah. And he goes on to say mushrooms are better than pharmaceuticals. Zach, yes. Voluntarily, you should do as you see fit if you think that's the right answer for you. And on the veteran side, as Michael Vass has brought up, there has been some very good results with PTSD and what they call guided tripping with certain mushrooms. They have the guys go back through and they actually relive the experience without the trauma through the mushrooms, and they're able to process a whole lot better and get past their PTSD. I think that is true. It does help. So good for them. Patty goes on to say, in Plattsburgh, New York, there's an 8-month waiting period to be seen by any therapist, but your doctor can prescribe you a med while you wait. This is literally what you were talking about, Dara. This is literally what you're talking about. No one's trying to fix the problem. You wait 8 months. By the time you're on the drug that takes 12 other drugs to counteract for 8 months, your brain's already fried. What were you saying again with the what was the thing that was happening with the drugs they're giving that makes you do the thing? What was that?
The metformin.
Yes. What does it do?
Yeah, it's supposed to help you with your weight loss. So it's supposed to help it's supposed to help spike your insulin.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, there we go. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I want to say I had something very similar to Dara happen, which is why I think it's so important to have that education out there for people to not just blindly trust. Don't just trust the experts. Don't just trust what doctors tell you, because there are very powerful interests at stake. There is a pharmaceutical sales industry. They are profiting off of this. Like a year ago, it happened twice. I went to 2 separate doctors for ADD, and I outright told them up front, I don't want to be on medications. I just want to know what my options are through vitamins, supplements, whatever. The first one, she only lied by omission. She, after 2 seconds, here's the prescription. She made it sound like taking a Tylenol. Oh, it's not a stimulant. It's this. I walk out of there, I Google it, antidepressant. And personally, for me, I've had so many experiences with people I cared about, and I've seen lives really be destroyed by antidepressants. Yes. I never told her I was depressed. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to a different doctor. This one lied to my face. And I outright told her, because I was sitting there Googling as she was telling me drugs she was trying to put me on. And I said, I don't want to be on major drugs. I don't want to be on antidepressants. Personally, I'm very against them. So she goes, oh, we can give you this. It's not an antidepressant. I Google it. First thing comes up is an antidepressant. And she names a bunch of different ones. And then this is after knowing me for less than 5 minutes. She goes, oh, well, there's this other one. It's used all the time. We could put you on this. I Google it. It's an antipsychotic. All because I went there saying I have trouble focusing. What are my options? Wow. And I'm fortunate that I know enough to not just go fill that prescription and Google it, but how many people just go, they know.
Thousands have done that. Thousands. Absolutely. See, if you had richer friends that just put you on coke, you'd be fine. That's it. See, richer friends. That's how you do. Yeah, exactly. So,
well, I think
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think if somebody is on illegal drugs, if they're on coke, if they're shooting on heroin, it's not as bad in a way, because at least with that, there's the education and the acknowledgement and somebody who will step in and say, this is a bad thing and you should stop and you can get help. Whereas if you're on 10 different pharmaceutical drugs, they're just going to keep giving you more. Nobody will say it's problematic to do anything but affirm, as they say.
Absolutely. So Millicent says, I
affirm.
had to fight to get off my meds, but they were making me so sick. What is perhaps stigmatized these days would be fighting mental health with more natural or holistic approaches. Yes,
Good
right.
for
That's
you,
when
Millie.
that's when you're the nut, right? The nut is the person who's like, doing what you said. You didn't just trust the doctor, Mr. Harlow. Why didn't you just do that? What's wrong with you, right? You didn't just blindly believe what the guy or gal said, and you did your own work. And I think it was it a Jimmy Dore joke? I saw a clip on Twitter. I think it was Jimmy Dore or someone like that, who was saying from a comedian was saying, why is doing your own research good in everything else but not medicine? So like if you're going to buy a new car and, Dara says, oh, I'm going to go do some homework on the car. I don't go, don't do that. What's wrong with you? Just trust the salesman.
Trust the used car salesman.
Just trust the used car salesman. Why would you go do your own homework? What are you, crazy? So in every other thing we do, we would like that. But in medical, shut up and trust the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about when they're doing to our kids right now. It's called blind affirmation. It's blind affirmation. You must affirm, and in particular, you must affirm when an 8-year-old tells you that they want to chop off their genitals or that they have some other identity that was taught to them by a teacher, because they didn't have that idea when they walked into the school. They had that idea after they came out of the school.
That's right.
Not saying that you can be whatever you want to be. 18 and above, you're a grown adult. I don't care. You're one part of one of the 125 or 86 or 62 or 33, or in some cases, an infinite number of genders out there. Call yourself a toaster for all I care. You're an adult. Do whatever you want. Chop off your bits. Do not charge me for what you want to do to yourself. I don't care. Why are we blindly affirming, pumping drugs that we don't know the effect of into children? Because a child says at 8, oh yeah, I think this is something I want to do. Yeah, yesterday you said you wanted to be a frog. Next week you want to be a princess, and the week after that you want to be a fireman. I'm sorry, the mental illness isn't the child. It isn't the issue underlying that what they're saying, what their gender is. The problem is the mental illness is we are saying blind affirmation because some politician who has no idea about you, your family, or anything else is saying, oh yeah, you're a category. Just blindly affirm.
Oh yeah.
There's the real problem with mental illness.
Yeah. My younger sister is going to be 23 this year. And when she was about 3 or 4 years old, she was a tomboy. She was the little girl in her dresses and her heels, running with the boys, playing in the mud, running up to me with lizards and putting frogs in my face and stuff. And she told my mom, like, Mom, I don't like playing with Barbies and I don't really get along with all the other little girls. So I must be a boy. I'm a boy, right? My mom was like, no, you're not a boy. You are just a girl that likes to, play in the dirt and, run around with the boys, whatever. And my sister is now in the Army. She's badass and she loves jumping out of helicopters. Like that's her thing, So
Cool.
if she would have grown up in this day and age, then my mom would have had that pressure from the school system or from society to go ahead and tell my sister that, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe you're not a girl. And, who knows what that could have done, in the long term to her mental health.
Down
and
that one
physical
because
health.
I remember Andrew Sullivan, who's a very popular gay writer, a very good writer. He said something on, I think it was Bill Maher, that really affected me. He said the reason why he's so worried about this is because he's worried that years from now, we will have a whole lot of broken and battered women/men instead of a bunch of happy gay men. And that was his biggest worry, that we're going to take men who just are gay and they would be happy and healthy gay men. And they're going to wind up thinking they're girls and having problems and blah, blah. And to Vass's point, having surgeries and stopping their puberties and all those things. That was his worry for this. So Michael Harlow was so pissed off, he got off. He's like, I'm out. That's it. He was so mad.
No, I think he's taking a break for a second, but let me word this in a slightly different way. And I think everyone will see the value of it. Let's say that all of this stuff is absolutely true, whether it's ADD or ADHD or whatever mental illness they're promoting right now, and all of their plans that we're being told by politicians and political organizations that we need to use to submit. What if they're wrong 1% of the time? This is my question for everyone. And this is part of answering the issue about mental health in America. What if everything we are doing right this second, you love it, you hate it, doesn't matter, we are wrong for 1% of the population? Do we have a plan to help those 1%? Have we even considered the consequences to that 1%, which equals tens of thousands of people?
Hold on. Yeah, we do. We do. I'm sorry, we do. Another government program that will also
antidepressants
campaign for while someone's running for office.
Yes.
No, okay. I think the reason what Andrew Sullivan was talking about, and for a lot of gay people, one of the reasons that it's so personal to us, and I mean, it should be personal to every person because they are butchering and brainwashing children. Everyone should care about that. But I think a reason it's particularly personal for gay people is that many of us are the exact people who would have been targeted by this. When I was a teenager, all I wanted was to be David Bowie. Today, I would be told that makes me trans.
Right, because David Bowie dressed like a woman very often in his shows. But
yes, well, not even a woman. He's just his own unique person. But today,
glam
we
rock,
a million labels.
Yeah, glam rock. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember the glam rock, Poison, and all of them. I mean, come on.
Yes, me too, absolutely. So I get it. But somebody else, like when my daughters came home, they were often confused, as most kids come home confused, particularly when they have feelings or if they're late bloomers or early bloomers. Either one, right? They feel differently. And every time my daughters would say something, all I'd say is, that's great. Go do your homework.
Yeah.
That's it. That was it. That's awesome. We're your friends. That's great. Go do dishes. Right? I was just like, yes, I go to work. It doesn't change anything. It's good. You feel that today you're something. And right now it looks like both my daughters are straight. But if they were gay, I would still love them. If they were trans, I would love them. It doesn't matter to me. And I'm not even sure. We'll find out later on if they are. Well, who cares? Whatever. They are what they are. All good. But my point is, I don't affirm or deny. I go, that's awesome. Now go to work. Because it doesn't matter if you're straight or you're gay. It doesn't matter if you like boys or girls. You still got homework to do. So go do the homework and stop worrying about whether you like boys or girls. You'll figure that out.
Well, and what's really terrifying, a couple days ago, I went out with Billboard Chris to do interviews on this subject. He travels the whole country trying to raise awareness about what's being done to children on this issue.
I saw some of his stuff on Twitter. I saw some of it.
Good. Thanks. Yeah, it'll all of them will be out soon. But yeah, what's really terrifying is just the completely blasé attitude that a lot of adults have about this when confronted with specific things. And you say to them, so you're okay with a 12-year-old getting a double mastectomy? Yeah, sure, of course. Like it's nothing. And you see, for the same people who talk about, kindness and empathy and their whole line of bullshit, you ask them, well, what happens when that child gets a little bit older and reaches 17, 18, 19, 20 and realizes what was done to them? And this one woman said to me, she goes, well, choices have consequences. And I was like, there it is. There it is. Thank you for admitting that. Because we're told love and hope and kindness and empathy and all that to butcher children. And then when the consequences of that happens, actions have consequences, not our problem. You see how much empathy and kindness they're really all about after they destroy the lives of children.
Wow. Well, Chris Rowland says self-identity as having social mental illness is crazy. I'm not sure that is crazy. And I don't mean to be mean at all, but I'm going from, and I brought this up earlier in the chat, but before we started this, there's a woman, Sarah Higdon. She's a trans woman. She's an activist. Mm-hmm. And she brought up a question on Twitter and got banned from Twitter for bringing this question. She got brought back on eventually. We all fought to get her back on, but it was a question. She's trans, and she said, if you could take a pill and you would then feel comfortable in your body without having a transition, would you take it? It was a question, right? And people got upset. Oh my God, that means you're saying it's a mental illness. And then she responded that it is. That's her response. She says, I'm trans. She goes, I have gender dysphoria. That's what she said. I'm using her words. She said that. She said, I have gender dysphoria, and I don't feel comfortable in my biological body. So I have to do the outward things. I must do them so that I can feel comfortable in my body. And if I could take a pill, again, her words, to just feel comfortable in my body, I would do that. I am treating my illness with my actions. I would treat it with a pill if I could, right? And that mindset of a conversation to me seemed genius. I thought it actually brought more to the conversation to have that talk than to have it shut down. And then her other point was, if you say that it's bad to say I have a mental illness, you're now stigmatizing mental illness. She then brought that up. And I was like, Sarah, you're brilliant. These are good points. We should be having this conversation instead of, to your point, Mike, saying, well, it's one side or the other, and my politics decides what's right and wrong. Instead, have this real conversation. How do we see it? How do we deal with it? And I think that's why I was bringing up Chris's point. This should be a real conversation. And I, as an outsider, may not be the best person to decide whether someone is a mental illness, what maybe they have a better outlook. Just my view on that also.
Well, I mean, to your point of this woman talking about, taking a pill to feel comfortable in her skin, whether you're trans or gay or not. I mean, there are women that don't feel comfortable in their own skin because they don't like how they weigh. They don't like the way their jeans fit them. They don't like the way their tops fit them. They see, they want to have a thigh gap. They want to, not have side boob or whatever the case is. So, I mean, could there be a pill that, any person, gay, straight, trans, whatever, could take to feel comfortable in their skin, So that is not even just in the LGBTQ perspective of a conversation. I mean, there's people all over that would probably opt in to take that as well.
Well, let me ask you a question, Dara. Is there anything in wellness practice currently that says you should shut off all options, you should shut off all discussion, you should shut off all choices in your life and just obey, just hold your head down, just do? Is anyone in the wellness realm saying that the answer is just go with government, just allow someone else to run your life anywhere?
No,
Am I missing that?
The whole conversation around wellness is being empowered to make your own decisions, to heal yourself, or being empowered, to take over your brain and beat your mental illness, or, to have the opportunity to, if you like going to church, if you like, praying with your crystals or whatever your take on religion or your faith is, but having the empowerment to choose which way that you want to go, that's going to make you feel complete and whole from the inside out.
Okay. That's what I kind of thought. But yet, in every example we bring up, and all these, this is how big this issue is. Like I said to you, Larry, before we started, this is huge. It reaches every aspect. There is no one in America that is not in some way being affected by this question of mental health that is being avoided by the media and our politicians. They're both downplaying this, throwing it into a corner, except when someone needs to win an Academy Award or someone needs to raise money and get reelected. It's the only times we hear about this stuff, and yet it affects us all so much. And yet the answer we're getting from them is not help. Here's how you can help yourself. Here's the answer. Here's some of the root problems and maybe some of the options. It's just obey.
I don't know. Let me, Mike Harlow, you seem not to be sure about the conversation that I brought up with Sarah Higdon. Do you think that's not a good conversation to have?
No, I think it's a fine conversation to have. It shows that they don't want any other answer other than blind affirmation by shutting it down.
Yes, I think that's the key. And to be forward, I don't know details of that. I'm only going what she said. So please don't beat me up saying I don't know. I'm going what she said. So whatever that is. But she, regardless whether you believe or not, she's brilliant. So she's still brilliant either way. Doesn't matter. So yes.
Well, we should have. I'm glad she raised a question that deserves to have an answer. Whether or not we like it is meaningless compared to it's a conversation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And maybe some kid is inspired by hearing, maybe there's going to be a kid, I hope, some teenager out there right now, or a mom or a dad, someone, a guardian that's going to hear this, and they're going to now have this conversation, show this to their kids, have a conversation. That kid gets inspired and they come up with an answer that none of us have been able to figure out because for decades now, we haven't even been trying. I hope that's what happens. And that only happens because you have dared to bring us on. And thankfully, my co-hosts here, we're having a conversation, sometimes with humor, sometimes with seriousness, but we're talking. God bless the First Amendment.
Yes. Yes. Desiree says the government will use mental health for some type of compliance. Look at the war on drugs. How did that work out? That's always my feel. My feeling is always it's about compliance, right? That's always my feeling. I don't know. Maybe I'm off here. But Chad says time blindness is very real. Alarms on the phone are a lifesaver, for me at least. I'm not saying that people don't have trouble with time. I'm sure that people do. But that's why, to your point, Chad, why you have alarms on phones. That's particularly, and I think this is another point, particularly people who spend a lot of time online. If you're always, you can spend hours watching TikToks or hours watching videos on YouTube or something, and you could easily lose track of time. I have also, I'm guilty of that too. But that's why I have alarms. And that's why I have clocks and watches and stuff. So I can have an alarm go, hey, stop watching YouTube and go to work, you bum. So then I stop watching YouTube and I go to work. So yes, I'm not at all saying that time blindness can't be a real thing, particularly with the way our eyes are getting attracted to all the TikToks and Twitters and videos and such. But technology that put it there also saves us. Am I off with this?
No, it's real. Like the same way, but the point is it's your problem. It's my problem for me.
Yes.
Like it's not on anyone else. Like figure your own shit out.
Well, they're magnifying the problem.
Yes.
They're magnifying the problem to include, again, they're creating a new class, a new category for their equity list. And this is never ending. You will always have another category, a new list, a new medication for a new problem that you have to depend on government for. And now you are a slave. You're a cow. You're a serf, a peon. Right. Take your term. That's what they're turning you into. And it's not positive.
Wow. Wow. Joe brings up an amazing point. Joe says 13 years of government education and don't talk about nutrition. Dara, you must just want to jump out of your skin when you see this, because I know you're like, yes, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, and you know, I went to private school my whole life, but still, like, our food system was not that great. You know, we had the typical food ticket, and you had your frozen chicken nuggets, or you know, your hamburger, questionable, was it really hamburger meat burgers, and your cartons of milk and everything like that. But never once, maybe carrots. You might get carrots every once in a while in your lunch, but there was never a vegetable. You know, it was never really a true balanced meal. It was all very processed, and they're feeding this to, you know, kids that are, you know, still trying to develop, you know, and their growth and everything. And who knows, maybe that's why we're so sick as we grow up, because they're feeding us this processed food, this processed junk that has no nutritional value. And those are sometimes in some cases, in some counties and in some states, those are the only meals that children are getting. So they're not getting anything that's nutritious enough for them to actually help with their body function. A big part of any illness you have, whether it's your mental illness, whether it's just allergies that you have, everything starts from the gut. Everything from your body, whether it's functional or dysfunctional, has to do with your gut. If your gut is not functioning properly, if your gut is not healthy, if you don't have an active gut that's processing and digesting your food correctly, you're not getting that nutrients that you need. So it's going to you're going to just stay in a state of sickness until you figure out that you need to, you know, be nutritious in your meals.
Hey,
Apple cider vinegar is in this.
There you go. That's it. That's a gut stimulant. It's good for your digestion.
To your point,
Here we go.
Dara, you're right. They're serving kids pink slime now. If you don't know that,
That's real. That's real.
Yeah, look it up. It's real. Pink slime is what they serve kids in schools now. That's not nutrition. And they're talking about now grinding up bugs, which is also not really nutritious.
You will eat the bugs, Mr. Vass. You will eat the bugs.
Yes, and we will rub them
You'll
all.
be happy.
But
And you will be happy.
Imagine if we, again, I go back to the Bipartisan Communities Act, which is a miserable deal on so many levels. But imagine we took the $100 billion that they're now trying to convince states to use for red flag laws to punish people for the Second Amendment. And instead, we took that $100 billion. Dara, how many kids could we feed with nutritious meals with $100 billion in America?
I mean, probably all of them.
Probably all of them.
Seems,
Probably all of them.
you know, or a really high fraction of it. You know, I mean, it's even going to the grocery store. People think that eating healthy is so expensive, and granted, it can be, especially if you have multiple people in your family. But I've narrowed it down to where I can get my groceries for less than $70 a week. Granted, that's just for me, but there's nothing wrong with getting frozen vegetables. Obviously, your fresh vegetables are going to be the best take. I'm sorry.
No, Chris in the chat is all into his frozen stuff.
But you know, the frozen vegetables, I mean, you can get them for less than $1 at some stores. You know, I go to Walmart sometimes. You know, Publix can be a little crazy. I do live in Florida, just as a reminder. So like Publix is like our holy grail of grocery stores. But but you know, I try to go for that route of eating healthier on a budget. It's not as, you know, you don't have to have all this fancy schmancy stuff. You can still be simple when you're eating, but eating nutritiously. And that could be frozen vegetables. That could be canned vegetables. You know, it's the matter of just having that nutritious balance in your lifestyle that really matters, because you need all of it. You need healthy carbs, you need healthy fats, you need protein, you need vegetables that have that micronutrients that are going to aid in your immune system, and just your brain function and everything else.
So let me grab a couple more comments if I could. Jonathan says, so you have to be 18 plus to drink, smoke, or own a firearm. Well, in New York, it doesn't matter. You can never own a firearm. Get a piercing, tattoo, or join the military. But 12-year-old is mature enough to manipulate their body. WTF.
Yep.
This is exactly your point, Vass. This is your point right here. He's making your point for you.
Yeah. And that's not, and to blindly affirm, and again, I don't blame the child. This is what they're taught. But the parents that blindly affirm that because a politician said so, that's not considered a mental illness. I would suggest, yes, it is.
Got it.
And this is why, you know, talk about pride. We need more shame. We got to bring some shame back, because I'm dead serious. You know, we can legislate this, and I'm for that, but it's not going to solve the root problem. It's the parents who are doing this. It's the parents putting the kids in these situations. It's the parents going along with it. And I think a lot of these liberal parents who are bored and want this status symbol only act out of social pressure. So we really need to have a very healthy shame economy and shame the hell out of these people. Economy.
Well,
shame industrial complex. I like
yes, bring it. That's what we need.
You know, to both of y'all's points, you know, I saw something on I think it was on Twitter the other day, and it was, you know, if your genitals don't make up what your sex is, why does removing them affirm whatever the new sex is? So, you know, I personally think who you have sex with is the least interesting thing about you. I think that there are so many other qualities that, you know,
unless it's me, then it's very interesting.
There you go.
Then it's very interesting.
Yeah. Yes. I don't really care.
Correct. Yes. If it's not me, I'm not that concerned. Yes.
But you know, I appreciated that point, because it makes sense that this doesn't really make sense to be doing that, because if that's not something that defines it, then why are we encouraging parents to have their kids mutilated and remove that from their body? Doesn't make sense to me.
Let me grab Paula. Paula says, I know a lot of women my age and older who grew thinking or wishing they were a boy when they were young. They are all adult women who are happy being female and having had children. I cannot imagine what would have happened to them had the government been involved. Well, this is now a straight version of what Andrew Sullivan said, right?
Mhm.
Same idea, right? I want happy adults. That is what I want. To your point, Dara, who they sleep with, I don't care. As long as it's consensual, all good, right? That's all I care about. All good, consensual, we're fine. I do think it is an issue. And then I think something else happens too. There are clearly people who are really in trouble in their mind when it comes to their body. I mean, like to the point where they can't function. Those people absolutely exist. And then they get almost erased by people who are trying to become popular. And it bothers me because I know there are people who are really in trouble and they're going to wind up being the ones who actually commit suicide. Those are going to be the ones who commit suicide because someone else is trying to become popular or someone else's family is trying to make something work or something like that. That's one of my biggest concerns and one of my biggest worries. So you saying that makes you think that's like the straight Andrew Sullivan one.
Well, yes. It goes back to my point before. What if we're wrong 1% of the time? What if what is our fallback position? What is our safety net to catch these people? We're not even thinking about that. We're not having that conversation. And this is the problem with all mental health. We're talking about different aspects of it, but all mental health in America, there is no safety net. There is no support system, no catch. It's just, you're in this category, so you do X. That's it. You're done. We're not talking about it anymore.
Perhaps we should be telling these kids that they are fearfully and wonderfully made and that they are beautiful the way that they are and not that they need to change themselves. And if that's what they decide later on in life, awesome for them. That's who you are. But rather than tell them, you're right, something is wrong with you. You are born in the wrong body. Let's encourage them to love themselves the way that they are and live and grow up to be who they're going to be. And then later on, if that changes, then so be it. But encouraging them to look at themselves and think like, I am awesome. Like I am great. I'm perfect the way that I am. I don't need to change anything about me. But we're not talking about that.
Yeah, that was the sweetest way I'd ever heard that been put. That was amazing. Well done. I'm going to steal that and sadly probably give you no credit, but I'm absolutely going to steal that. Yes.
Yeah. Or the only thing I'd add to that is, or give yourself enough time to figure it out. Even if you want to make change, give yourself enough time to figure it out.
Yes.
Why is that a crime now?
Literally a crime.
Literally a crime.
Yes, absolutely. That part drives me crazy. I completely agree. Yes. So let me, Millicent is, I think she is in Australia. Am I right, Millicent? Please let me know if I'm right. My country are literally trying to pass laws to stop the spread of misinformation and disinformation, where the only bodies exempt are the government, mass media, and education at the moment. Yeah, so everyone else has misinformation except the government. They don't, right? And the mass media, they don't have any. In education, they're all perfect. They got it all down. I think that's the problem. If you're going to censor, then censor everybody. I mean, don't censor anybody. But if you're going to censor anybody, everybody gets censored, right?
But everyone is being censored, Larry. We are all subject right now to, if not censorship, suppression. We're being beat up on a regular basis for talking about this. And I guarantee you there is some government organization right now is watching this and going, okay, so I need to send a message over to all the social media companies. And in particular for myself, I know they already do this. It's like, oh yeah, that's Mike again. He isn't fitting in. Mike speaks too much and we don't like what he has to say. You don't censor him. He'll get attention for that. Suppress him. No one can find it. And that's the problem. How do we get solutions when we're
so many times? Yes.
Yeah, how do we get solutions when we're doing that or allowing that?
I've always said that being banned is better than being shadow banned, because if I'm banned, then I'm just gone. But I remember when I first got shadow banned. I think I told a story maybe last week. When I first got shadow banned, I was like, "What am I doing wrong?" I thought that my content was all of a sudden bad or something. And people were like, Larry, your content's just not good. People don't like it. I'm like, they just liked it like a week ago. Like they liked it a week ago. Now they almost don't like it. And that's what people were saying. And then it took me literally months before I figured I was being shadow banned. And my views went down literally 90% in a week. 90% of it. I used to get 30,000 views. I went on 3,000 in a week. And it's taken me it has taken me months, years to get it all back up by using multiple platforms now. I'm on I'm on 16 platforms. I'm not even joking.
Mike,
I'm on like 16 platforms.
Larry,
Yeah.
it happened to me 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. They started doing that to me. I still haven't recovered.
Yes.
It's the answer they're having right now is we're going to silence. We have come up. I'm listening to Dara. She has come up with several solutions. Mike came up with several solutions to some of the, not all, not in every case, but some of these rampant issues that are increasing right now, alternatives, options that at least some of the people out there might be helped by. And the answer we are getting from many of these governments and these officials are shut up, stop speaking.
Yes,
and I don't understand that. In America, we're not in China. We're in America, and they're doing that.
Sorry about that.
No.
Happy to have you back. Millicent says, yes, she's in Australia. So yes, I thought it was Australia that she was in. Yes. Karen goes on and says, cancel culture is censorship. And this is the part I wanted to bring up, Mike. We're not just being censored. There's a scarier piece. And this is what Karen's talking about. Cancel culture actually makes us self-censor, which is even scarier. So now I don't need the government to censor me because I'm already scared. So I'm censoring myself. That to me, I think Karen's point is actually a scarier point. Am I wrong with this?
Well, go ahead.
That's why the real problem is coward culture, is people complying to this.
Coward culture.
Cancel culture only is effective by people self-censoring, by people complying with it, and people pretending that they agree with this stuff and not saying how they really think. It goes back to what I was saying before. We need to shame these people very often, very loudly.
Which is our First Amendment right.
I'm sorry, say it again, Vass. Go ahead.
Which is our First Amendment right.
Absolutely, 100%. Guys, let me, if I could quickly do a little bit of admin again. Guys, like it. I told you 3 times. If you haven't done it by now, I don't know why you hate me. I don't know what I've done for you to make you hate me. Click the like button. It's important. Please click it if you haven't already. If you're watching on Twitter, please retweet this. It does matter. If you want to super chat, you always can super chat if you want to. But no matter what, you have 3 people here who have given you an amazing show so far. So they've been showing us some love. You should show them some love. Follow these people online. I put all their data on Facebook and on YouTube, or just follow them on Twitter and you can see what they're doing from Twitter. You can follow Michael Vass at MV Consult. You can follow Dara Sweatt at Dara, D-A-R-A, Sweat with 2 T's. If you're listening to this, please do that and give them some love. So before we wrap this up, is there anything I missed? Please tell me, Vass, something I missed? Something you want to bring up?
Hang on, I'm double checking. I gave myself a couple of pointers that I wanted to hit. I think we've covered a huge amount of stuff. But one of the big things, people need to be aware when they're being used by the government, by politicians, by candidates. When they come up to you and they go, yeah, I really care about mental health. And then do your homework, look at what they've been saying. And when you find out, the only time you've ever mentioned mental health is when you're talking about gun control, telling me I don't have a Second Amendment right. That person's lying to you. They're using it. They are using this. And we need to be aware and say, okay, but what are my options for my kids, for myself, for this concern, that concern, like Dara had brought up, like Mike has brought up, like you're talking about. And most importantly, don't talk to the politicians. Talk to your neighbors, your friends, the people in your community. The politicians don't know you, your life. They don't know your family, your school, and they don't care.
And they don't care. Yes, absolutely. Mr. Harlow, anything that we should be talking about? Something you want to talk about or bring up before we wrap up?
Oh, God, I think just everything we've talked about is that people need to be really skeptical with all of these things. Do your own research, no matter what CNN tells you. And just
CNN lies? What?
I actually never knew that like 6-7 years ago, but now I do. But yes, just don't self-censor, stand up for yourself, stand in truth.
Dara, bring it home.
Yeah, I just think that it's really not as hard as people think that it might be to take over your wellness and take control of your health. You can start very, very small and work your way up. If there's 5 options for you to choose from, just pick one, nail that option, and then once you get comfortable with that, it becomes a part of your routine, part of your life. Then you can start with option 2. You're never going to get anywhere or grow anywhere if you stay in your comfort zone. You've got to step out of it, and you've got to be able to make your own decisions on your health.
I love that. And you talk about forming
Mhm.
habits. I completely agree. That's amazing.
Mhm.
Guys, I want to say thank you all for coming tonight. And everyone who was watching, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it tremendously. By the way, I will be on tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, Sharpe Radio. And then again, I will be on Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live Wednesday at 3. And then I'm back upstate New York. I know 4 days in a row. I'm heading out to Western New York. I'll be out in Ontario County. I'll be out in Monroe County. I'll be in Wayne County, all over the place. I hope to see you all very soon.